Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff We Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another Activist Around the World, and happy continued AAPI History Month. And today, we're returning to our love of poetry with an activist and leader, Terisa Siagatonu. So on her website, terisasiagatonu.com, Terisa describes herself like this. The important stuff that you must know off top is that I was born, raised, and rep the Bay Area all day. I come from a big, beautiful Samoan family, even though I'm an only child. And I'm deeply devoted to my Pacific Islander community across the diaspora. And when I'm not on stage, in a classroom, or behind a microphone, you can catch me FaceTiming with my nephews, which I thought was very sweet. Family is important. And she often introduces herself as an artist, an educator, and a community leader. And her work has been celebrated throughout the country and the world, including at the White House during President Obama's administration. She has been a speaker of the UN Climate Change Conference and was even awarded the Champion of Change Award in 2012 by President Obama. When I think of those days, I just think the good old days. There was a lot of problems, but not these problems.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she uses her work and talent to advocate the needs of protecting the land and nature, as well as using her words to speak for her community and people. She writes this for culturalpower.org. In the wake of a brand new year with the same climate crisis anxiety we carry, it's poetry that helps me reckon with my indigenous Samoan roots as they ground not only my desire to now language climate crisis in my writing, but also my responsibility to take action on it in my life, both on and off stage, both in the poem and with my people, both when I create and when I organize. And this piece is an amazing piece. She writes a lot in there. It's like 3 or 4 pages. So if you have time, go and look her up. And this piece, we're going to reference it again, but obviously it's a huge chunk and it's beautiful. Like the way she lays it out, it's obvious that she's a poet. Like, you know, those types of people that are like, this is all gorgeous and beautiful, but this is just an essay? What? Not just them, but you know, it's not an actual poetry piece, which you're like, this is a 4-page poetry piece in an essay. But anyway, you should take time to go look at it. So in this piece, she talks about the growth and use of poetry and artistry. She explains that though she was fearful of failing as an artist, and even though her parents had plans that involved other professions, you know, being a doctor, a lawyer, we got those things. Poetry was always something important to her and a part of her. So again, from that article, she writes, fear of failing, my parents, my community, myself, always pulled me away from the quiet desire of going full time with my writing and instead kept me on the academic route to someone else's dreams. It took 3 career changes, 2 college degrees, leaving my life and clients as a therapist, and thousands of dollars in student loan debt for me to realize that I will never stop being afraid of failing at being an artist. That I may always question whether or not I made the right decision to leave academia and finally choose myself. That I would rather feel free and afraid of what I may fail at than secure myself to a life that asks me to exist, but doesn't demand for me to live, to dream, even if it means doing it scared. Such is the duty of the artist anyways, to reflect the times and to tell the truth about us, as both Nina Simone and James Baldwin have instructed so many of us to do. I love that. Again, this is just like a small excerpt of what she wrote. Like, the entire thing is just poetry. It's obvious. And it is through her art that she pushes for change and fights for her land, for the land. From thejustice.org, they say, Siagatonu emphasized the role of artists in making social change. Cultural changes faster than policy, she said. So artists have enormous power through things like social media and trends to shift narratives surrounding societal issues. Artists can also wield the power of imagination, and according to Siagatonu, quote, we are in the dire need of a radical reimagination of a world different and better than this one. And it continues. As part of her role as an artist, Siagatonu uses language to, quote, shift narratives to focus on marginalized people, especially when it comes to climate change. It's Indigenous Black and Brown folks who are affected first and foremost, Siagatonu said. Indigenous ways of knowing or ways of thinking about relationships, learning, and the world informed by Indigenous cultures can also provide important perspective on climate change, according to Siagatonu, such as the understanding that one does not own the earth, but instead is a part of it. Siagatonu referred to the native Hawaiian notion of kuleana, or responsibility to the land, as an example of an indigenous perspective on climate justice. And it seems, again, that the power of her words and poetry is something that she has used to share her heart and her intentions and of her advocacy. So from kqed.org, she says, I think the poet is responsible for making what is typically taboo or typically off limits to talk about. Make it possible to talk about and make it accessible, especially right now in regards to climate change. I see poetry, I see it literally as medicine. And it is. We know the healing power of art like poetry. We need more of it.
Yeah.
And she uses her work to tell the story of her people and community as well, as we've obviously mentioned. From utterish.com, quote, her work combines activism and storytelling to mesh the personal and political. In her poem Atlas, she writes, I tell them that home is a machete and that I belong to the places that don't belong in themselves anymore. Broken and butchered places that have made me, a hyphen of a woman, a Samoan American that carries the weight of both, colonizer and colonized, both blade and blood. She writes about the experience of belonging to the Pacific Islander diaspora and the harm of being constantly decentered and marginalized in the U.S. approach to history telling. Her poetry looks at intersections of marginalization, constantly pressuring for a new point of view that is more expansive. So she makes sure to give credit to her community when it comes to her passion and her talent. And she often talks about how important the arts are to her people and how they communicated. Again, back to that culturalpower.org, again, that beautiful piece. Many things may make up who we are as a community, but I do believe that art is the soul of who we are. Our dances, our music, our drawings, our films, our photographs, our paintings, our poems, our books, our oral traditions, our instruments, our storytelling, our writing, all of it is how we've been able to pass down our histories and the truth of us for centuries. There is a resilience in our memory that art never lets us forget. The reason why we're able to dream in the first place, and I can't think of anything else that we need to do now more than that. We've tried many things, some for decades, that are just not working, that are just not in the service of our collective liberation and justice. The time has come to finally trust the artist, to allow us, to help us to dream. Again, chills. Just from that piece, chills. Again, her poetry speaks for itself and the work she does and what she is doing, but she also does advocacy work and is heavily involved in facilitating and creating workshops, mentors, and creating mentorships for other artists and professionals, and also has a background in counseling and is often does a lot of work in mental health support and just rehabilitation. So she does a lot. Obviously. So you definitely, if you can, look her up, look up her poetry. It is powerful work.
Yes, absolutely. And as always, listeners, if you have any suggestions for this segment, please let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffwenevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a T-Pup store and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.